All we have to do is dream.
1958 was a time when recession was still impacting Americans. Still, the United States was recovering from World War II. The USSR was fighting against other First World powers, including the United States, to win the Cold War. A year before, in 1957, they launched their first man-made satellite called Sputnik 1. At the homeland, we had the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, or NACA, which was lacking for the funding to compete with the increase of the scientific research and technological international development. Fearing that the USSR could become a security threat to the United States, President Eisenhower proposed the creation of an agency dedicated to explore the possibility of making breakthroughs in rocket science. On July 29, 1958, he signed the act to replace the NACA with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA.
Members of the NACA staff, this is my first opportunity to greet you as Deputy Administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Improve life here, extend life to there.
1961. After NASA became operational when launching their first project, Pioneer 1, their immediate goal was to make a high-profile space exploration program. They started in 1962 with the Project Mercury to determine if humans could survive in space. This program eventually produced the first American to orbit the Earth, Alan B. Shepard, who piloted Freedom 7 on a 15-minute suborbital flight on May 5, 1961. After the Mercury program, the Project Gemini took off with sci-fi ideas that eventually developed a plan to make space travel a reality. NASA scientists researched the best way to dock other vehicles in space, how to gather medical data on the effect of weightlessness on humans, and even started to look into the possibility of getting an astronaut on the moon.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
1963. During the presidency of John F. Kennedy, the Project Apollo started with the ambitious start of placing the first man on the moon. There were many trial and error moments, but after 11 attempts, on July 20th, 1969, 3 astronauts brought pride and hope to the United States: Neil Armstrong, Edwin Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins. Aboard Apollo 11 took a big leap for humankind when they set foot on the moon and placed the flag of the United States over its surface.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Let us set eye beyond the moon.
1970. After the space exploration era started, there were also some low keys in the run for space exploration. For example, Apollo 13's oxygen tank exploded and caused the mission to be aborted. Later on, in 1975, Apollo-Soyuz project had a series of mishaps including gas poisoning, fire and launch, engine malfunctions, among other defects. Nevertheless, NASA continued the Apollo project as well as the Project Viking 1. They had several milestones including Landsat satellite exploring different ways to map vegetation on Earth and the International Sun-Earth Explorer, where NASA started exchanging information in cooperation with the European Space Agency to study the interaction of the solar wind with Earth's magnetosphere. NASA had a significant technology transfer success by taking the technology developed for space exploration and using it to improve on Earth. For example, insulin material, which was now a material used when building a house or solar panels, is used as a green energy source.
Houston, we have a problem.
1980. By this decade, the Cold War rivalry for space domination between the U.S. and Russia was losing some intensity. Because of budget cuts, NASA used the downtime to start a series of test projects to renew their technological strength, as well as to continue international cooperation and information exchange, working together to find solutions to different scientific problems. This is the beginning for the Space Shuttle program, which initiated in 1981 with the launch of Columbia. At the center of the program, a new initiative was taking shape: the construction of the International Space Station, a joint effort from Russia and the United States, where experiments designed to improve life on Earth and extend the borders of our home planet were going to be done. During this period, in 1986, one of the darkest chapters that placed NASA in a hiatus of 32 months happened. the Challenger explosion that killed 6 astronauts and 1 teacher. Michael J. Smith, Dick Scobie, Ronald McNair, Ellison Onizuka, Gregory Jarvis, Judith Resnick, and teacher Krista McAuliffe.
Columbia to Houston. We did not copy your lab.
2003. Learning some lessons from the unfortunate event of the Challenger explosion, NASA continued exploring and expanding horizons using rockets built under the Space Shuttle initiative. It was decided to go back into the original Columbia shuttle, and for the next 10 years, from 1990 to 2000, the oldest orbital fleet traveled back and forth to and from the International Space Station. On February 1st, 2003, during a routine trip back from the space station, and a few seconds after re-entry to the Earth, a small foam piece of the Columbia STS-107 exterior insulation broke off, causing a series of chain reactions that ultimately ended the life of its 7 astronauts. David Brown, Laurel Clark, Michael Anderson, Elon Raymond, Rick Husband, Kalpana Chawla, William McCool. Many people thought that after these tragedies, Challenger and Columbia would destroy and put NASA in ashes.
Let us inspire new generations.
2010. Going forward after explorations in the earlier part of the 21st century, NASA focused its shuttle program into finishing the International Space Station. Finally, in 2011, the project was completed, after several delays and extensions. The United States government had another vision for the agency, to expand not only to explore closer horizons, such as the Moon and Mars, but also to start further exploration of the galaxy and beyond. When Atlantis, the last shuttle, returned to Earth, NASA allowed commercial aircraft such as SpaceX to transport cargo to the International Space Station through the Commercial Crew Development Program. By getting private funding, NASA started developing, since 2011, a new era in space exploration and exchange, the Space Launch Program, which has a goal to go beyond the Earth orbit with spaceships Ares and Orion.
Also, by this time, the Center for Advancement on Science in Space, aka CASIS, was created to assist with the work of the International Space Station. Their mission is to maximize the use of this unparalleled platform for innovation, which can benefit all humankind and inspire a new generation to look to the stars. Its actual director, Cornell Gregory Johnson, is proud of the work that CASIS does, not only as a way to resolve scientific problems, but also as an educational tool to inspire new generations of future explorers and scientists.
So NASA's job is to learn how to live in space for long duration. Have you heard about the astronaut who's been living up there for a year?
Yeah.
That's the first U.S. astronaut. His name is Scott Kelly, and he's going to come back here in a couple months. But living and working in space is something that takes experience and time to learn how to do. And so NASA's job is to figure out how to live in space for a long duration so you all can go to Mars. CASIS, our job is to use the space station, and we use some of the astronaut time to solve these problems that help us here on the Earth, including education, by the way. So we want to use the space station as a bright, shiny object that will inspire girls like you to go into science and engineering jobs.
CASIS had a significant impact on oncology research. For example, using the laboratory in the International Space Station and its weightlessness effect, they have been able to study metastatic thyroid cancer cells and develop new chemo treatments.
NASA and CASIS collaboration had expanded the horizons to inspire exploration and encountering new possibilities.
This is an era in which the frontiers had disappeared. It is only one Earth. An exchange of ideas and solutions is possible.
The probability of success is difficult to estimate, but if we never search, the chance of success is 0.